Challenges are what makes us different from others. It's what help us bring an impact to the community and also help us shaping ourselves into our best versions into the near future. Today, I am going to host a guest who has walked the walk and crossed the challenges herself. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Hope you all are in good health and spirit. Welcome to the third and the last episode of our event, Pokthon, brought to you by Advive. And I am your today's host, Ananda Boni. Before moving forward, let's hear about Advive and watch our promo video. Advive is a virtual learning platform which renders online learning, education strategy development, and higher education consultancy. We have been actively holding various live shows with the teachers, representatives of consultancy, institutions, and with students across the globe to navigate international application process. Now, let's move forward to watch our promo video. So the wait is over. Let's welcome our today's guest, Shifti Kamal, and hear from her about the wonderful journey from Vigarnesa to Columbia University.
Hi,
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm okay. So now we are heading to the first segment of our live show, that is discussion. So, Shifti Kamal, as an international student, how was your social cultural experience?
So I know that it's very normal for international students to, when they go abroad for the first time, there is a cultural shock, and that is very normal. But you know how kind of our generation grows up watching different things on TV and things. So my cultural shock was a little different. I had these expectations that I learned from the media, movies, and things like that. So I thought I was pretty prepared. Nothing really hit me hard. But the problem was that my expectations came from movies and stuff, so it was a little different. So I did have the cultural shock, but thankfully I didn't have that hard of a time because I knew what was coming. I was probably expecting a lot more than that actually did come, but I would just say that the first few weeks here was okay, but I would say that different states. So my first state here in the US was California, and then I came to Virginia. So I started observing that different people in different states are in different ways. Like you have to kind of smile at strangers at Virginia, or it's kind of looked as rude. You can't really do that in New York because people will think you're creepy. So things like that, it's kind of like you have to learn and observe from the people around you. But so yeah, my I didn't have that hard of a time in the U.S. the first time I came here, and I'm really lucky that I didn't. But it can be hard.
That's amazing because as most of the students have this hard time in adjusting to the environment, like fitting it to the community. So it's wonderful to hear that you were like quiet I mean, you were quite adaptive to the society and the community
Mhm.
you were when we were.
Yeah. I know
So,
that.
can you please
Sorry.
share?
I was gonna say
You
that
can
I will
continue.
say that the one thing that did really came as a shock was the food. It took me a year to get used to the food here. It's an acquired taste. So just saying, just be ready that it's one of the things that really makes you homesick because I mean, come on, the food isn't as great here as it is in Bangladesh. It's kind of obvious, but just putting it out there.
Yeah, food. Yes, that's most of the, I guess, Bengali struggle with, like the food. It's what make us homesick. Like even like if we like travel somewhere from away from our home, we are homesick just for the food.
Hmm.
So, can you please share your decision of choosing an all women's college and how was worth to the end?
Yes, I really like answering this question. It's really exciting. So I will say that when I first chose Sweetbriar College, it wasn't really because I was looking into women's colleges in general. Women's colleges are just really good, and I was looking at good schools, and they just like Mount Holyoke and Smith and like the Seven Sisters, they're really good. So I wasn't looking at them because they were women's colleges in specific, but it's because women's colleges tend to be smaller and they tend to be liberal arts schools. And that's what I was going for. So I applied to Sweetbriar like 2 days before the deadline. That's when I found out about it. So it wasn't really like super planned or anything. But I'm thankful when I did apply. I started learning more about Sweetbriar after I got in. So when I got my acceptance letter and I got like a good scholarship from them, I started looking into it and I said, oh wow, this actually looks really good. It actually has all the subjects I want to study and the campus is super beautiful. So, I mean, it all worked out for me. So that's why I went there. And I wasn't really thinking about, oh, it's a women's college. That wasn't ever a factor for me. I didn't realize how important it is until I actually came here and until a few months in. So I will say that after a few months, like when I came here, I was really shy in class and I just didn't, I was still learning about everything. And I just didn't, I wasn't really prepared to voice my opinion or have strong opinions. And within a few months, actually, the way our professors in classes nurture us in class, encourages us to speak up, listens to us, never interrupts us, there's never a stupid question, and that helped me over the few months. And I saw the difference in me within very, like within a short span of time. And I realized that when I was taking classes in different schools, I took a class in a neighboring school because I wanted to get more classes under my belt. And that was a co-ed school. And the first semester, I couldn't speak up a lot. But over the months, I grew so much that when I went to the neighboring school, I was just like talking nonstop. I would just challenge people. And that was a very obvious change that I saw in me. And over the years, it only got better. Whenever like I learned how to advocate for myself and for someone who is in need. And I will say that women's college had a big impact regarding that. Yes, US colleges in general will teach you that, but women's colleges knows they know that there is a struggle, there's a special struggle women go through in today's society. So when you know what problem you're dealing with and when you're aware of that problem, it's easier for you to deal with it. And that's where women's colleges really succeed. And that's why I'm really glad because I honestly don't think that I would have been this person today if I didn't go there. And by this person, I think I'm a pretty good person. And I think that I will have to credit the environment that I was taught in by my professors for that. It really changed me as a person, and I'm really happy about it. So I'm really glad that I went to women's school.
That's so good to hear from you. I mean, whenever people think about colleges, the first thing that comes on their mind is that women colleges might lack diversity, but like hearing from you like makes me believe that it's you who could take full advantage of the resources you are surrounded with, and it's not important that only co-ed schools will make the community diverse. It's the the entire system that makes the system diverse. So thank you so much to
Mhm.
like describe your wonderful experience, like, and also choosing an all women's college. So if you could compare NCTV curriculum and the liberal arts education, which curriculum would you vouch for, and why? Why do you think liberal arts education is important for like every country or every nation?
So, my national curriculum study was till 12th grade, right? And my liberal arts was after that for 4 years. So I'm not going to say they're like, I can't really compare them side by side, but I will say this, that one of the reasons why I wanted to go abroad is because I knew that if the university curriculum was similar to the NCTB curriculum that we had, I wouldn't have survived. I hated it. And that's because it was just not for me. It can be for other people, but it wasn't for me. And one of the reason is that I had to study completely pure science until the 12th grade, and I'm not a science person at all. And because I was an English version in Bhutan, so we didn't have anything other than science. So unless I had transferred to Bangla medium, which I didn't want to do, I had to study science, and which I did. And I'm pretty sure many people can relate with me when I say that studying something you absolutely hate and resent does not go well for anyone. So that was unfortunately my experience with my NCTB curriculum. I'm not going to say that NCTB is absolutely horrible or anything. It has its pros, but it also has its cons, and there's a lot of room for improvement, but I am really glad it's over for me. And coming to liberal arts college from NCTV was absolutely life changing, because I remember my first meeting with my advisor, and he is a sociology professor, Dr. Shea. He was my advisor as a first year, and he and I just started talking, and I learned so much from him just from the advising meeting that I actually started crying in front of him. I was a first year in my first advising meeting, and I started crying because I was so happy. I was like, this is the first time in my life I actually feel like I am learning things. So that's how important like Sweetbriar liberal arts was for me, because it was finally a place where I belong. It was finally I was finally getting to read what I wanted. I was finally getting to talk to people with similar minded, similar thoughts. So I mean, I feel like if I had the opportunity to study anything besides science in NCTB, I would have had a better experience, but I was kind of stuck there. So it wasn't really the best thing for me. But yeah, so that I would say the transition from NCTB to liberal arts was the best thing for me. Yes, there were things that I needed to learn. I never wrote a paper in my life, and liberal arts colleges are pretty heavy on writing, especially in my departments. And I had to learn super quick. I had to reach out to people a lot. It was really hard. I had to work really hard, but I was having fun the entire time I was working hard. So it wasn't that bad. Um, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that definitely answers my question. And I'm so happy to hear from you that because in Bangladesh, holistic approach is not available, as well as
Mhm.
the importance of liberal arts education is highly neglected. And that's why most of the students are even unaware what a liberal arts curriculum looks like. So it's like most of, it, it will be so beneficial for them to hear from you that how liberal arts education like helped you to grow as a person.
Yeah. Mhm.
So why did you end? end up choosing a STEM major? And how do you think it's worth it to what you believe? As you did a major, a triple major on philosophy, international affairs, and psychology. So
Mhm.
why do you think that you were in a better position than doing a STEM major?
I really don't think that I was in a better position than a STEM major, and I also dropped my psychology major my last semester because I was a little bored. I was like, I'm done with it. Even though I was almost done with the degree, I just wanted to clarify that I was just a minor. Um, I don't, going back, I don't think I'm in a better position. I just knew that STEM wasn't for me. Uh, and I will say that when I first came here, I wanted to study psychology. I wanted to be in that field. I just didn't know what. I never saw myself as a therapist. I just knew that I was interested in that field. But I was a double major with international affairs because my mom was a little skeptic about studying psychology. So I was like, fine, I'll study. Because you know how in Bangladesh, like if you get into D unit, one of the good subjects is international relations there. So I kind of carried that mindset here. So just to make sure that my mom was feeling secure and for me as well, because I was also skeptic that I was going to study international affairs. Plus, I loved it. It's not like it was something I was forcing myself in. I was very interested in studying it. So I came in as a double major, and I also wanted to explore. Initially, I wanted to explore English and creative writing, and I wanted to explore anthropology and sociology, and I did. And I absolutely loved each and one of them. So, and that's when I started realizing that for the first time in my life, I was loving what I was studying and I was doing really well in it. That's when I knew that that was it for me. I never really thought I did. I would be lying if I say I didn't. I did think sometimes that, oh, if I were in STEM, my life would have been easier because of what do you do as a philosophy major, what's the job, so like things like that. But then I was like, no, I'm not going to think about that. I came all the way here for myself. I'll focus on myself and I'll do what I want to do. So I took every class I wanted to. I just didn't even care. Like there was a time I didn't care about my grades. I didn't care about anything. I just wanted to learn. I just wanted to take stupid or fun classes. I even did a theater play last year. So I was just all over the place and that was a great thing I did. So that's kind of how I ended up being a philosophy major because I took a couple of classes and I said, "Oh, I love it." And my professor was one of my best experiences at Sweetbriar. And once I started taking his classes, I couldn't stop. I kept doing it and doing it and doing it, and then I realized, oh wow, I'm only two classes away from a degree. I'm not going to stop, so I might as well get it. So that's how kind of I became a philosophy major. It wasn't planned, but that kind of really influenced me to apply for grad school in the particular field. Like philosophy had a big influence in it. So I would kind of going back to your question, I would not say that I was in a better position. I'd say I'm in a different position than people in STEM because things vary a lot when it comes to post graduation.
Yeah, definitely. Because in Bangladesh, most of the students are engaged in pursuing either an engineer degree or either a medical school degree. So they do not understand or realize that learning is more important than pursuing a degree. And it's wonderful that you were more engaged into learning than like actually an earning and degree. So now let's talk about the jobs. So how are part-time jobs available for international students, and do you think they are necessary, for the financial stability, for the personal expenses?
So, first, part-time jobs are available for international students. You can work 20 hours a week maximum on campus, and it has to be on campus. You can't work off campus unless you get special permission from the Homeland Security, but it's really complicated. And So I would say that there are also internships, but I'm going to focus on like part-time jobs. So I had two jobs in my undergrad, and the first one was as an admissions ambassador, and the second one was a resident advisor. So I would say that I really liked working because I just really liked my job, especially my resident advisor job. And I obviously enjoyed being paid every 2 weeks. And it was helpful because I really wanted to get a car. So because the Sweetbriar is kind of isolated and there's no public transportation around it. So my first summer I kind of did an internship at the admissions office to save a lot of money, and then I bought a car with it. And so that's why the money was necessary for me. And afterwards, I needed money to take care of my car. So that was the biggest personal expense for me. Plus, you're a student, you're in the US, you would want to travel a little bit, you will want to buy things a little bit. Sometimes textbooks can be expensive. So things like that, like, yeah, I think that if you can do get a job without like it having to like hinder your studies, go for it. Because usually it's a good resume builder. Like my admissions office job was a good resume builder. My resident advisor was it played a very big role in my application when I'm applying for my master's. And so, yeah, I would encourage it as long as it's not affecting your studies. Your studies is a priority. So, and again, to in short, yeah, it is available for you. It's just not a lot of hours. It's 20 hours.
That's wonderful because in Bangladesh, as an undergrad, most of us do not have this opportunity to work on campus or for off campus. So a job on campus lets you to have an experience. I mean, starting from a helps to like make a professional career experience. So that's so good to hear from you. So can you discuss the steps regarding the visa procedure? I mean, as an international student, did you face any sort of problems while you were processing your visa?
So thankfully, I never faced any problems with my visa, and that is very lucky for me because it is very normal to face issues. It's very rare to not, and that's just luck and nothing else. So my visa process was super smooth. I think I got help from Simon Center. I believe that's located in Gulshan or Bonami. I forgot. And they did most of the visa paperwork for us, and then I just had to show up. Well, I had to fill out the forms that I needed to, and then I had an interview. So I would say that I have a couple of tips there for visa interview is take the earliest time you can. Just like take like 7 a.m. or whatever. I had a 7 a.m. interview, but they called us in at like 8. So just expect to like stand in line. It's important because, visa officers, they're also humans. So the earlier you realize it's like the better. They didn't have to deal with a lot of people yet. So like be one of the first people to deal with, be very courteous, and usually they would want to see a lot of funding. And if you don't have this good scholarship, as long as you can show them that you are able to afford it out of pocket, you should be okay. But honestly, this visa process is so complicated, you just never know what happens. So I would say it's like 40% or even more luck than anything else. But yeah, the process was pretty simple for me. Apply, go in an interview, and I got accepted my first round. My interview lasted 5 minutes. My visa officer asked me where am I going, if I had the I-20, how did I feel about that school, who is going to sponsor me from my personal experiences. My mother was the sponsor, and she asked for her bank statement. Well, she didn't really ask me for the papers. She just asked me about it, like what is her work, what is her job, and that's it. Like so, like it didn't even last 5 minutes. It was a little scary because the person right before me and the person next to me got rejected. And so I was really nervous when I went in, but like don't be nervous. Like be like very like have us like smile a little bit, be confident as you're speaking. I know that some people have heard, some people tell me that being good in English helps. I would say it's less about being good in English and more about being confident while you're speaking. So, like, don't worry if you don't have like the best English grammar, like, no one cares. Just make sure you're confident while you're speaking and have every paperwork. Like, if they ask you for something and you don't have it, that's a scary thing. It might get you rejected.
Yes, because most of the students are even intimidated by the thought of these applications,
Mhm.
and this worries them so much. So I think this definitely, I mean, is a concern because with this pandemic happening, as the embassies are closed indefinitely, we don't know when the visas are going to resume. That's why it's very concerning. Thank you so much for answering the question.
Yeah.
So, um, can you mention and elaborately discuss about your co-curriculum life? Did you engage in similar activities you did back in your home country, or did you start exploring new ones?
So was always interested in doing like social work oriented things, like direct social services, direct community work. But I never had that opportunity in Bangladesh because of various personal reasons. I had a lot of boundaries, and being a woman itself is a boundary too. So, I can't stay late, I can't go out by myself, things like that played a big part. And I honestly, I also didn't know. I always knew that, oh, I want to do this kind of things, but I can do it when I'm older. I can do it when I'm in university. I can do it after. I just never thought about it because I didn't have guidance. Uh, but I did when when I decided that, oh, I want to study abroad. I started looking into it, and that's when I realized, oh, I need to build up my resume. I need to do extracurricular work. So I started doing things that I could, being like kind of stuck, like even with the limitation, I started doing the things I could, and I joined this organization called Trubotara Youth Foundation. It was a big, or I had a lot of contribution to that organization, so it looked good, but it didn't really go with what I want to study in the future. Like you can look at my work there and you look at my interests and they just didn't align. And that's okay because I made sure that it came across in my application that the fact that I want to go into social work, it's not because of the things that I'm doing right now, it's because of the oppression I witness and I can't bear it anymore and I want to change it. So it wasn't like I showed them that, look, this is the only thing I can do right now. So I'm doing it. I'm helping as much as I can. But there are things that I can't do anything about it. That's why I want to go abroad and study and get skills so I can help fix these things. So that's kind of how I basically made my application. Like I didn't have a lot of experiences. I didn't. I just had good words. I was able to express myself really well through the essays. And I did do like a little bit of like community services here and there, but they're not even like I didn't even put a lot of hours into it. But it kind of showed them that oh, she's trying whenever she can. It kind of like showed that you like I kind of like said this in my previous interview that like my entire application, if I could summarize it, it would be I am trying my best. I wasn't like a great applicant because I didn't have resources. Like I didn't even know what SAT was or extracurricular work was. Like I knew nothing going in. So that's my post application experience. For my college, I that's when I just like I knew that I this is what I want to do. I was when I was in college, I was itching to go out and do work, do volunteer work because I wanted to learn more about the US and how social work is in the US. So that's when I got a car. I realized without a car I can't do anything. So once I did that, I started volunteering anywhere and everywhere I felt like it. I loved everything I did. And it's volunteering, so there's like no application process. I mean, there kind of is because these things are so sensitive. Like I work with sexual violence victims and survivors, and if you are not a good person, they're not going to take you. Like it's kind of obvious. Like it's you have to be in such sensitive situations that they will make sure to know or get to know you personally. Like, okay, how are you as a person? Can you deal with it? Things like that. But anyway, it worked out for me and it was great. So the things that I've done here are vastly different from the things that I've done in Bangladesh because my work in the US surrounded with mental health, sexual violence, domestic violence. So things like that, like yeah, I couldn't do them in Bangladesh. Like that's I it's very like ambitious being able like, even thinking that Bangladesh would have that opportunity for someone like me, someone so young. So yeah, so that was my experience in college. I had a couple of things, and yeah, I hope that answers your question.
That's so wonderful. I mean, I am in already in awe. That means you want to say that no matter what, if you can prove that you made an impact and you were trying your best, and that this is how you show that yes, you are different, you are unique, and this claims that yeah, you are going to fit into the community they are looking for. Um, so recently, ICE uh, post banned international visas who were doing online classes, and also it was rescinded. But in that circumstances, what was the first step did you take, and what did you suggest the upcoming international students if they face similar kind of situation?
So the first thing I did was, well, I got super active on social media. I started like getting very involved with petitions and stuff. But one of the first things I did was I emailed my school, Columbia University, because that's where I'm starting. I emailed them saying, "Oh, what's going on?" Because we are supposed to be fully remote, fully online this fall. So I would be one of those people who'd have to leave the country. So I started emailing them, and they ensured me right away that we are looking into it. We are having meetings right now. So I honestly, I was really upset about what was going on, but I wasn't that scared because I felt like it's going to be someone would step up for us. Like there's so many of us, it's not just me. And they did. Like we had lawsuits and all the schools were like we'll offer only one class if needed to. So I think like situations like that, it can get tricky, but have faith in your school. If they're not stepping up as enthusiastically as you would want them to, push them to it. Like let them know what a big deal it is. So for I know that Colombia is might be offering hybrid model just for international students, just in case this comes back. So they're taking precautions for it. So I would say that like at this in this situation, there's not a lot you can do yourself, except for kind of spread the word and sign petitions and things like that. But it would have to kind of rely on your school. The one thing you can do is communicate with them that what a big impact this will be on you and why they need to help you and why I know it's very like there are so many people in the US they keep asking why is it important if international students are having online classes, why do they need to stay here? They can just go home and do the classes there. I think it's important for us to let them know, inform them that there are many reasons a student comes abroad to study, and studying is just one of them. And like some people, it's an escape for them, and some people just have their this is their new home now. They don't have a home back home. This is their home, and the time difference, like you and I were talking, like you can't do classes at 3 in the morning. That's crazy. So things like that, like it's important to make sure that you communicate with your school. But honestly, like that's you kind of have to hope for you have to do what you can and then hope for the best.
That's amazing because the first thing, like most students will get startled because if they see that they have no one where whom they should connect to, but it's the university they should reach out to, like for solving their problems regarding any bans. So thank you so much for answering that question. So so let's move to mental health. So as you know, mental health situation. Sorry, the mental health situation they gets uh, neglected in Bangladesh. So how mental health is prioritized in the U.S. universities?
So, one, I can't really speak for all the US universities. I can speak for Sweetbriar. And I would say that usually all the universities have like therapists and counselors on site. And I will say that at Sweetbriar, we had the very basics. We had counselors, we had access to it. Uh, However, I would kind of emphasize on one thing that I really appreciated it were my professors. My professors would like if you like I never had to lie to my professors about missing classes. If I ever like there were times when I was actually physically sick and I would either go to the doctor and give them a doctor's note. Like most of my professors didn't even want doctor's note. They just believed me when I said that I was sick. And but there were times when I wasn't physically sick, but I just needed a mental health day. And I literally just emailed them, I need a mental health day today. And my professor is like, of course, like that's okay. Like once one of my professors was like, yeah, of course, I needed to take one this past Friday. So do what you need to do. So like I'm so grateful that I had that opportunity. Like I'll give you an example. My first semester. That was my first exam in college. I was so nervous. I was so scared. Like I stayed up all night memorizing a book, and then I realized I didn't have to memorize it because that's an NCDB effect I had that I have to memorize everything. I got depressed. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, and I got a really bad headache. And then I went to my professor wearing the sunglasses because I couldn't tolerate any light. And I was like, Professor Key, I can't do this. I feel sad. I feel sick. I don't know what to do. I'm really sad. And he's like, just go back to your room and watch Netflix. Why are you here if you're not doing well? And I said, because it's exam day. And he said, it doesn't matter. Just go, get out of here and go watch something. And I'll email you when you need to take the exam. And I mean, imagine being a first year who is so scared and getting that response from your professor. Like, he didn't care about the exam, he cared about me. And that was so good. Like I absolutely loved it, and that has happened with me throughout the 4 years. I will say that getting like actually getting professional help if you're not getting it through if you're not going to your school counselor, because sometimes in big universities your counselor might be busy. You might not go get to see them like regularly. You might get to see like once if you're having a crisis or something. I would encourage try to get someone like off campus or getting it online too, because it's really important. Like even if you're not going through any horrible crisis, it's good to have someone there to talk to on a regular basis. Like I really encourage it. Psychological health isn't for the crazy; it's for everyone. It's especially for people who are yet to be absolutely in crisis because you can prevent that from happening. So I would suggest try when you get for health insurance, make sure that your health insurance covers therapy and counseling, because that's one thing I tell everyone that get someone like your first year. It's good to talk. That's something I didn't do. I didn't realize how important it was. I started having a counselor very later in college, and I just regretted not having them before because it was so helpful for me. So yes, to answer your question in short, mental health is looked at as important in colleges, at least it did in my college. but there are some things that might be hard to access, and you kind of have to advocate for yourself and help yourself get that help, or reach out to people who can actually get you that help.
That's so wonderful to hear because as you are away from your home, so you need to have your mental health prioritized. And I'm so glad to hear that you were being taken care of, and Sweet Briar was another home to you. So
Mhm.
now we will have the last question of this segment, and then we will move forward to our following segment. So you faced a lot of challenges or difficulties, but lastly, you made your way to Columbia University. So can you explain why, despite all the difficulties, studying in the United States of America, it's totally worth it?
Well, I can speak for myself why it's worth it, and kind of goes back to our first question that I felt was I never knew that I was an academic person. Like you can ask my classmates from Vikarnasa, I never studied. I never did that well. They, I was never that person who was academic. So that wasn't just like Bangladeshi curriculum, like universities and institute just wasn't for me. They didn't have the things that I like. What I wanted to study wasn't valued there, and which was psychology initially. Like you know how psychology is in Bangladesh. Like it's one of the subjects that people get in that university that's very low in the list, which it shouldn't be. Like it should be a really good subject. It should be prioritized more, but it just didn't feel right for me. So I left, and I knew when I was leaving, I knew that I would have challenges. I knew that it would be hard. Like one reason people discouraged me from going abroad out of 100, one of the big reasons was that I will drop out because it's a long period of time. People drop out all the time, and like believe me, I was so close to dropping out many times in my college career, but I didn't because I knew that I had an end goal and I have to keep pushing for it. Once I came here and I started studying, I realized that I love it and I'm actually not that bad at studying. I just needed to study the right thing. And now I'm like a very strict academic person. Like I write papers, I love doing research work. But I found those things out about myself because I was in a place that valued what I want to do. Like it helped me find the things that I wanted that I didn't even know about myself. And I don't think I could have done that in Bangladesh because that's just not for me. And it's important to identify if Bangladeshi education is for you or not. It can be for some people. There are so many people I know who did so well there, and I'm so happy for them. And there are so many people who decided to come here instead, and it worked out well for them. So I think it's about knowing yourself and understanding that okay, this is who I am, this is what I want to do. Where are the opportunities? Like, how do I want it to be done? Do I like it in Bangladesh? Do I want to go abroad? Not just US, anywhere in the world. And it's kind of like you have to explore yourself a little bit. You have to know yourself. And for me, it worked out. Luckily, I wasn't wrong about myself, and it was worth it. Like it was really hard. Like being in college, like as I said, I contemplated dropping out several times. I was homesick. I didn't have food because Sweetbriar is so isolated. I'm an outgoing person. I was like, I need a car. I had to learn how to drive with other people's cars, and I had to save up to buy a car. So I made it work because I was like, there's no other option for me. I have to make it work, and it was worth it because I am just happy with how everything is now for me, like my interest and everything. So I would say that yes, like I'm going to Colombia, and that's not why I'm saying it was worth it. It's because the reason why I'm choosing to go to Colombia, it's because of the interest that I have today. And that interest was like, I discovered that interest because I came to Sweetbriar and I came to the US to study. And I'm really grateful for that. And I just don't know where I would be if I weren't here. And I don't even want to think about that because I'm happy with my life right now.
you so much. With this, it ends the last segment, the first segment. Now let's move to our myth solving segment. Myth number one: I need to be very rich to attend a college in the US. So, what do you think about it?
Well, I'm not rich. I didn't come from a rich family, but I'm studying here. It can happen. So I will say that it is true that money plays a big role because not a lot of schools and not everyone gets like the scholarship or the financial support that they need from schools. I will say that if you can afford, if let's say if I'm applying and I have the money to pay for school out of pocket, like I can pay it like without any problem, without any pressure on my family, and I don't get a lot of scholarship, I would encourage you to do so because that's what I would do because as I said, like it was worth it for me coming here. If you can't afford it, if you can't get any scholarship, then I think it's you should wait until you do, like if you're coming from post for PhDs and stuff. But I don't think that it is vastly true to say that I would have to be rich to go study there because that's not true. Most people I know who come here are on scholarships. Most people I know here um, really don't they wouldn't have come here without that money, which kind of shows that they're not rich. And I mean that's kind of what I want to say. I mean it's not really true, but then again money is a factor. But you can honestly, if you want something, if you try really hard, like you are gonna do it. If your school doesn't give you enough money, keep asking, keep asking. Nothing, you have nothing to lose.
So, I do not qualify for financial aid. Myth number two. What do you think about it? As you say,
So
there are scholarships. So, what do you think about when it comes to financial aid?
So I remember when I was applying for financial aid and I did get it, they had to ask for my or my parents' bank statement and income and stuff. And financial aid in the U.S. kind of they do look at the income of your family, and if you don't, if they think that oh yeah they can afford our cost with with that earning, they will really give the financial aid, but if they can, they cannot to. And like a few of my friends who it was a little tricky. They earned enough to not qualify for financial aid, but not enough to actually afford the education out of their pocket. They were kind of like in the middle. So it can happen, but I will say that there is a way out of it. If that happens, if you get denied for financial aid, call them, tell them that look, this is I can't afford it for different reasons. Like this is the amount that you see on paper isn't the entire story. I'm just going to say usually you I've never heard anyone from Bangladesh who didn't qualify for financial aid, but I'm not saying it's entirely impossible. But there should be a way out. Just like don't ever stop fighting. Just fight for that financial aid, get that money.
Myth number three: TOEFL and IELTS are accepted in all universities.
So that's not true. That is a myth. Some universities accept either TOEFL or IELTS. Some universities accept both. And so you just have to like look on their website and see what they accept. And sometimes like one of the universities I applied to, like the admission council like called me for something and I talked to them. I just had a very small conversation with them and then they kind of waived that requirement. Like I didn't have to submit TOEFL or IELTS for them, because they talk to me. Because the entire point of this is communication and see if you can talk, speak, write properly, and listen properly. And they kind of like talked to me and they figured, oh yeah, like she's okay. So they waived it for me. But yeah, it's a myth that they're accepted everywhere now. Just make sure you look on the website, the admissions requirement, and know what they want very well.
Myth number 4. Since English is not my first language, colleges will not expect my essay to have perfect grammar.
Oh, that's a really scary myth because no, your essay has to be perfect when it comes to grammar. Because yes, like your I mean, as a reader, no one ever likes to read things that's not well written. Your grammar has to be perfect. Make sure you proofread. You get people to proofread it. You use softwares to make sure you're using the proper grammar, proper tense, and everything. Because if it's one of the biggest no-nos. Like, and I think some universities even tell you that you have to write in proper grammar. So like, don't ever think that it's very necessarily like if you're speaking to them in person or over the phone, don't worry about it. Like they know that this is your second language. No one's going to judge you for it. But when it comes to writing, make sure that your grammar and your writing is proper because and essays are the most one of the most important things in the application. So yeah.
Myth number 5. The US does not have many international students. Even they don't prioritize international students.
The US, I believe, has the international students is I believe is a $41 billion industry in the US. So if the US didn't care about us, they would lose a lot of money. So they care about us, but also international students are honestly looked at as we bring in diversity, we bring in more knowledge and different perspectives. They usually love having us, especially professors. They will want to hear your thoughts. They would want to have you in their classes because they want to know what you want to say. Like that happened to me. Like my professors, like my English, my history professors, who I didn't get to have a class with, they would push me to say, "Why aren't you taking a class with us? We want you in our class." That's because I had a perspective that they have never like heard before. So international students are like they're really valued in that aspect, and schools want it. Like even if it's just for diversity, just to say that oh we are a diverse school, they will want you. But usually diversity is really appreciated. It's really something that is valued here, and people are always very interested to talk to international students. Like strangers, when they would find out that I'm an international student, they would ask me so many questions. They're really respectful. They admire that you left your home to pursue higher studies here. They really respect you. International students are pretty respected here. And of course, there can be situations there might be xenophobia, there might be racism, there might be a lot of things, but that's a part of life and that's a part of US to some extent. But other than that, I believe and I have faith in schools that you would be well taken care of as an international student in schools. And if you don't know, kind of learn to identify it and advocate for yourself because there is nothing more important than you. If you feel ignored, if you feel that whatever is going on is not okay, speak up. Like you are valued. Like everyone will support you. So
With this, another myth, our myth busting segment comes to an end. Last myth, as soon as I graduate, I must leave the United States. I won't be allowed to stay there anymore.
so if after you graduate, if you don't have a job lined up or if you don't have grad school lined up or anything else lined up that you plan to do or an internship, you would have 90 days after your graduation to leave the country. But if you have something, for example, I have my master's classes starting this August. So I have that lined up. So that's okay. Like now I can stay. Like it's fine because they understand that why would we make you leave when you right have to come right back. So no, it's definitely a myth.
Thank you. With this, our myth solving segment comes to an end. Now, let's move forward to our third segment, which is question answers in comment section. Now, we'll be taking questions in our comment section. Shawana Shaheen Rahman. Hi Apu, what are some of the drawbacks that you faced while interacting with girls back at Sweetbriar? Like, were they as welcoming and friendly as you expected them to be?
I would say yes, in short. I was very loved by all my friends. I never had any problem. I don't know why. I don't know what other people's experiences were, but I had really good, like, so we had a group chat before we went there, and I think usually people do. And those weren't necessarily the people who were the ones I interacted with once I was there, because we were mostly hanging out with people who lived in our hall. And my hall, my first year hall, was the best ever. Like, it's probably historically the most fun hall in the world. And it was, they were so accepting and they were very respectful. Like, if they had questions, they would ask me, they wouldn't assume. And like, they were welcoming, they were friendly. Like, when I was my first Eid there, I was really homesick, and my hall, they gave me a surprise. They, like, we had an empty room and they would open it and they basically brought chocolates and they would divide in like one third of everything, because that's what we do in like Eid ul Adha. And and they would play like music and stuff. So, like, yeah, it was better than I honestly expected. I thought that, because I had expectations I had in movies. I thought I was gonna get bullied. I thought that people would make fun of me. Um, but no, it was completely the opposite of that. So it was really good. I got really lucky, I will say that.
Then, our next question.
Hmm. I don't think we have any more on the comment section.
Are there any more questions?
Mhm.
Okay, so now this ends the last segment of our questionnaire section in comment section. Thank you so much, Shifti Kamal, for taking out some time and doing this interview with us. We are so grateful to you. So, before leaving, can you give a feedback to us? I mean, to the advice platform. What do you think of advice platform?
Well, I am really happy that you invited me to this because the questions were really different. I'm glad that I can talk a little bit about my hardships, because usually people talk about like the good things and the fun things, but I think it's important to talk about the downsides as well, because it's kind of a reality check. And I know that as a incoming first year, I really needed it. So I'm glad that I'm being able to contribute to this. And I'm really excited that Advive is doing it. And I'm happy that everything you all are providing are very accessible to people. So thank you for doing it.
Thank you so much. With this, our live show ends at here. Thank you so much for watching the live show. We are so grateful to you. Have a wonderful rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.